The great star academy floated in orbit above the blue world of Norris. Its shining silver towers reflected the light of nearby suns. Inside, students from 100 planets trained to become explorers, pilots, engineers, and diplomats of the future. It was a place where the best minds of the galaxy came to learn. Every corridor was filled with bright colors, laughter, and energy. Everyone wanted to be the best. Among these students were two small figures who often went unnoticed. Their names were Rin and Vec, twin siblings from the planet Fenna. They were part of a gentle race known for their skill with tools and quiet speech, not for strength or bravery. The Fennar people rarely left their homeworld, but the twins had dreamed of joining the academy since they were little. When they finally arrived, they realized dreams were easier than reality. The first day of training was a shock. The other cadets were taller, faster, and more confident. There were humans, Thalans with crystal eyes and Ericsons with wings that shimmered like glass. They moved with ease through every task, speaking loudly and laughing often. Rin and Vec stayed near the back of the class, whispering to each other in their soft voice. The instructors were kind, but the other cadets were not. Whenever Rin dropped a tool or Vec misread a command, someone laughed. The laughter hurt, but the twins pretended not to care. They kept working, fixing small devices, cleaning up after training sessions, and trying again each day. They believed that effort could win respect. Yet the more they tried, the more they were ignored. When it came time to choose teams for projects, no one called their names. When groups practiced flying in the simulator, the twins sat by themselves, watching the bright lights of other ships race across the screens. One evening, after another long day of training, the twins sat in the empty hangar. The floor smelled faintly of metal and cleaning fluid. They were working on a small hover drone, trying to fix its guidance system. Rin tightened a bolt while Vec checked the power cell. Their voices were low, almost a whisper. "Maybe we should go back home," Vec said. "They don't want us here." Rin shook his head. "We came this far. We can't quit now. Someone has to prove that Fennar can do more than just fix machines." Vec sighed. "But they all laugh, even when we try our best." A quiet sound came from the far side of the hangar. Someone was sweeping the floor. It was Ben, the human janitor. He wore a faded blue uniform and his hands were rough from years of work. No one paid much attention to him either. Most students barely noticed when he passed by. But he had been there for years, keeping the academy clean and working order. Ben stopped sweeping for a moment and looked toward the twins. "That drone of yours looks tricky," he said with a small smile. "Mind if I take a look?" Rin blinked, surprised. "You know about drones?" Ben chuckled softly. "A bit. Used to fix old flight trainers when I was young." "Mind if I see what's wrong?" The twins hesitated but handed him the small machine. Ben turned it over carefully, checking the wiring and the control core. His movements were slow and steady. "Your balance chip is off by half a line," he said. "That's why it keeps drifting left." He handed the drone back to them and Rin made the quick adjustment. The machine lifted into the air and hovered perfectly still. Both twins stared in surprise. "Thank you," Vec said. "We've been trying to fix that all week." Ben shrugged. "Sometimes you just have to look at things from another angle. You two work hard. I see it every night. Most cadets go home after training, but you stay here." Rin lowered his head. "We stay because we need to catch up. We're not as good as the others." Ben leaned on his broom. "That's not true. You just think differently. There's a lot of value in that." Before they could answer, he gave them a nod and went back to sweeping. His broom moved quietly across the floor, and the twins watched him for a moment before returning to their work. That night, their small success made them smile for the first time in many weeks. The next few days were no easier. The training drills grew harder. The students had to navigate flight paths through simulated asteroid fields, repair power circuits under time pressure, and work together in survival exercises. The instructors praised teamwork and creativity, but the twins were still alone. The others laughed when their small ship spun out of control or when Vec's quiet suggestions went unheard. Yet every time they stayed late to practice, Ben was there. Sometimes he fixed broken equipment or replaced worn-out parts. Sometimes he said nothing at all, just swept and listened. When Rin and Vec grew frustrated, he would share small pieces of advice. "Don't rush," he would say. "Machines listen to calm hands." Or, "You don't need to be loud to be heard. You just need to be right." The twins began to look forward to seeing him. They started asking questions about old flight systems and repair methods. Ben answered patiently, explaining how older human ships had to rely on instinct and teamwork rather than perfect technology. He told them how people once flew through storms without autopilots, trusting their senses in each other. Humans made it this far because we learned to adapt, he said one evening. We didn't always have the best tools, but we kept trying. Every mistake was a lesson. Rin listened closely. The words stayed in his mind long after they left the hangar. A week later, the Academy held a practice simulation for the upcoming galactic trials, the great competition that tested every student's skill. It was only a practice run, but the hangar buzzed with excitement. Teams prepared their ships, checking systems and reviewing tactics. Rin and Vec stood near their small craft, an old model with faded paint. It looked out of place among the shining ships of the other teams. When the signal came to start, all ships lifted off and entered the simulator dome. The lights dimmed and the field filled with holographic stars. The goal was to navigate through a dense asteroid belt and land safely on a small platform. The twin ships shook as soon as they started. The controls were heavy and their timing was off. Larger ships zoomed past them with ease. In the observation room, other cadets whispered and laughed as the Fenar ship bounced between holographic rocks. When they finally reached the platform, their ship landed hard but still intact. The scoring screen flashed red, showing a low score. The twins said nothing as they stepped out of the simulator. They had finished last again. Ben saw them that evening while cleaning the hallway near the hangar. They walked slowly, their heads down. "Tough day?" he asked gently. Rin nodded. "We finished last." Everyone laughed again. Ben thought for a moment before speaking. "You finished. That's something." "It's not enough," Vec said. "We keep failing." Ben looked at them kindly. "Failing is part of learning. When I was young, I broke more engines than I fixed, but each one taught me something new." Rin frowned. "You used to be a pilot?" Ben smiled, his eyes distant. "Something like that. I worked on training ships. I was never the best, but I learned to keep going. Sometimes the people who fail the most end up understanding things no one else can." The twins listened in silence. Something in Ben's calm voice made them believe him. That night, instead of going to bed, they went back to the hangar. They opened their ship's control system and began to make small changes, adjusting sensors, balancing the flight stabilizers, and rewriting old navigation codes. They remembered Ben's advice, look at things from another angle. Hours passed. The hangar was quiet except for the soft hum of tools. When they finally powered up the ship again, it rose smoothly and held steady in the air. For the first time, they felt in control. Vec smiled. "We did it," Rin nodded. "We're getting better." At the far end of the hangar, Ben watched them quietly. He didn't speak, only smiled before walking away, his broom resting on his shoulder. He had seen that spark before, the moment when doubt turned into determination. In the days that followed, the twins continued to improve. They spent every free hour working on their ship, practicing communication and testing new maneuvers. The laughter of others still echoed in the halls, but it no longer mattered as much. Rin and Vec had found something more important, belief in themselves. And somewhere in the heart of the shining academy, a human janitor knew that two small dreamers from a quiet world were about to surprise everyone. The next morning, the twins arrived at the academy before sunrise. The sky above Norris was painted with soft pink and gold, and the first rays of light reflected on the academy's silver towers. The halls were quiet except for the occasional echo of boots on polished floors. Rin and Vec walked side by side, their small forms moving quickly between the taller cadets. They carried tools, spare parts, and notebooks filled with designs and ideas. Today was an unusual day. The instructors had called all students to the central atrium. The large space was buzzing with energy as cadets filled the floating platforms, standing shoulder to shoulder. Holographic screens floated above the center stage, showing stars, planets, and ships in motion. Everyone waited to hear the big announcement. A tall figure stepped onto the platform. Commander Hullo, a senior instructor with silver feathers and a calm voice, addressed the crowd. "Cadets of the Star Academy," Hullo began, "today we announce the galactic trials. This year, the trials will be more challenging than ever. They will test your teamwork, creativity, problem-solving, and courage. The winners will represent the Academy before the United Systems Council. Success in the trials requires skill, imagination, and the ability to help others. The twins listened closely. Their hearts raced. They had dreamed about this moment for years, but their excitement was mixed with worry. They were still new, small, and inexperienced. Most of the other students had larger ships, faster reflexes, and years of preparation. The crowd murmured with excitement, and some cadets glanced at the twins with a mixture of pity and amusement. Commander Hollow continued, "Teams will consist of 2 or 3 cadets. You may form your own teams or enter alone. Each challenge will be different, from navigation through asteroid fields to rescue operations and tests of engineering and diplomacy. Your creativity will be as important as your speed. The trials will begin in 7 days. Choose your partners carefully." As the crowd cheered, the twins glanced at each other. They had no team. No one would choose them, they thought. Already other students were gathering into groups, exchanging confident smiles. Rin and Vec stepped aside, feeling the familiar weight of being outsiders. "Maybe we should just watch," Vec whispered. Rin shook his head. "No, we need to try. We can't give up before it starts." As they walked toward the hangar, they noticed Ben sweeping near the entrance. He smiled when he saw them. "You heard the announcement?" he asked. "Yes," Rin said. "But we don't have a team. No one will pick us." Ben leaned on his broom. "Does that matter?" Vec frowned. "Of course it matters. Everyone else has partners, bigger ships, more experience." Ben shook his head. "Experience is useful, but imagination is stronger. You two have something they don't, the ability to see problems differently. That matters more than speed or strength." Rin and Vec exchanged a look. Ben's words gave them a small spark of hope, but the doubt remained. That afternoon, they tried to approach other cadets to form a team. They visited Loro, a tall Erickson with shimmering wings, who smiled politely but shook his head. "Sorry, twins. We need someone faster," he said. They tried Mira and Talo, 2 Thalen siblings who laughed softly and said, "We don't have time for slow learners." By the time they returned to the hangar, the twins were tired and discouraged. They looked at their ship, small and patched with old parts. It seemed fragile compared to the shiny vessels lined up for the trials. Ben approached quietly, placing a hand on Rin's shoulder. "You don't need them to make a team. You can create one yourselves. The real challenge is how you think, not how others see you." Rin took a deep breath. "But we don't have experience. We've only practiced in the hangar, never in real trials." "Experience comes from trying," Ben said. "You have time. You have each other. And you have me." Vec's eyes widened. "You want to help us?" Ben nodded. "I can't compete, but I can guide you. Teach you tricks that might surprise the judges. You have ideas and we can make them work. Do you want to try?" The twins looked at each other. A tiny spark of excitement replaced their fear. "Yes," Rin said. "Good," Ben said. "Then let's start today." For the next few days, the hangar became their secret training ground. Ben taught them to think creatively about problems. He did not focus on speed or strength. Instead, he asked questions. "What happens if your ship can't lift fast enough?" he asked one evening. Vec thought for a moment. "We could glide, using less energy and letting momentum carry us through obstacles." "Exactly," Ben said. "You're small and light. That can be an advantage." Rin worked on communication signals. "We could use flashing lights and short pulses instead of voice commands." "No one would expect it." Ben nodded approvingly. "Now you're thinking like a team. Your differences are strengths if you use them wisely." They also learned patience. When a drone failed or a flight pattern went wrong, Ben reminded them to stay calm. "Mistakes are lessons," he said. "The ones who win don't stop when things go wrong. They find another way." Slowly, their confidence grew. They repaired old circuits, balanced power cores, and created new strategies for navigation. The twins began to see themselves not as failures, but as problem solvers. One night, after a long practice session, they sat on a bench near the hangar, watching the stars reflect on the polished floors. "Do you think we can really win?" Vec asked quietly. Rin smiled. "Maybe not the first time, but we can show them something they've never seen. That's enough for now." Ben passed by with his broom. "Remember, winning isn't always about being first. Sometimes it's about being the best at thinking, helping, and adapting. You'll find a way." The twins trained every evening after classes, learning small secrets that no one else noticed. They discovered new ways to control their ship, communicate silently, and solve problems quickly. Each day they became faster, more coordinated, and more confident. When the first day of the trials arrived, Rin and Vec walked to the launch platform with their ship, patched and polished, but still modest. They looked around at the other cadets' gleaming vessels. Some ships glowed with energy. Others emitted humming lights, and a few had advanced AI systems controlling their movements. The twins felt nervous. The crowd of cadets whispered and pointed, laughing softly at the small Fenar ship. Ben stood at the edge of the platform, holding his broom like a staff. He waved quietly. "You're ready," he said. The twins nodded. "Thanks," Rin said. "For everything." "Just remember what I told you," Ben said. "Use your mind, stay calm, and help each other. That is what makes you strong." The signal light flashed, announcing the start of the trials. Rin and Vec climbed into their small cockpit. The twin engines hummed to life. Their hearts pounded, but they shared a determined glance. They were ready to try, not because they expected to win, but because they had something no one else had: courage, patience, and the guidance of a human who believed in them. As their ship lifted into the sky, other cadets laughed, thinking it was just another small, weak team. But the twins ignored the laughter. They focused on the training, the advice from Ben, and the careful strategies they had practiced night after night. The trials had begun, and for the first time, Rin and Vec felt that maybe, just maybe, they could show the galaxy what Fenar could do. After the announcement of the galactic trials, the twins returned to their hangar with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The other cadets were preparing their ships with precision and speed. Some teams ran simulations together while others polished every panel until it shined. Rin and Vec looked at their small patched ship, its paint scratched from practice sessions and its wires carefully taped. It did not look impressive, but it carried a promise. As they set to work checking the engines and adjusting the control systems, a familiar voice called from the corner of the hangar. "Need some help?" Ben asked, leaning on his broom. He had the same calm, patient expression, and his eyes seemed to sparkle with quiet confidence. Rin smiled. "We could use a lot of help," he said. Ben walked over and examined their ship. "First, we need to think differently," he said. "You've been practicing the usual ways, following instructions, trying to keep up. But the trials aren't about following. They're about creating your own solutions," Vec frowned. "We don't know how to do that. We're small. Our ship is slow. We can't compete with the others." Ben shook his head. "Small and slow doesn't mean weak. It means you have to use your mind more than your engines. You have to be clever. That is how you turn weakness into strength." For the next few days, Ben guided the twins through exercises that were unlike anything they had done before. He didn't give them instructions step by step. Instead, he asked questions, pointed out problems, and let them figure out solutions. "Your ship wobbles when it turns sharply," Ben observed one evening. "Why do you think that happens?" Rin studied the controls. "The engines are too far apart. The ship tilts when we try to spin quickly." "Good observation," Ben said. "Now how could you fix it without new parts?" Vec thought for a long moment. "We could adjust the weight inside, move the power cells closer to the center. It will balance better." Ben nodded. "Exactly. You already know the answer. You just need to trust your instincts." The twins spent hours shifting internal components, testing the ship again and again. Each small success built their confidence. Ben also taught them how to use their size to their advantage. Other cadets have large ships. They are fast and strong, but not very flexible. You are small and light. That means you can move in ways they cannot. You can slip through tight spaces, turn quickly, and avoid obstacles. Use that. They practiced weaving through narrow corridors and simulated asteroid fields, learning to make tight turns without crashing. At first, the ship bounced and spun uncontrollably. But after many attempts, Rin and Vec could fly in perfect rhythm, each turn smooth and precise. Communication was another lesson. Most cadets shouted commands to each other or relied on voice-activated systems. Ben showed them a different approach. "Silence is powerful," he said. "If you can communicate without words, you can act faster and more efficiently. The others will not see it coming." He handed them a small set of lights and switches. "Try using these signals instead of talking. Come up with a code only you understand." The twins spent long hours developing their system. A blink meant turn, 2 blinks meant slow down, and a long flash meant stop. Soon they could fly through an obstacle course using only their silent code. Their teamwork became almost instinctive. But Ben's lessons were not only about the ship. He taught them patience and calmness. Every time they grew frustrated, he reminded them to breathe and observe. "Rushing is the enemy of success," he said one night. The others may be fast, but speed without thought will cause mistakes. Take your time. Watch. Plan. Then act. The twins practiced meditation and focus exercises, sitting quietly in the hangar as the stars shimmered through the windows. They learned to notice small changes in the environment, to anticipate obstacles and to adjust without panic. Engineering was another focus. Ben introduced them to old broken drones and teaching simulators left behind from previous students. "Look at this drone," he said one evening. "It is useless as it is, but if you repair it and change how it moves, it can be better than new. The same applies to your ship." Rin and Vec disassembled, repaired, and upgraded the old drones. They experimented with weight, balance, and energy distribution. Every failure taught them something new. By the end of the week, the drones moved more smoothly than ever before. The twins also learned the importance of helping others. Ben often reminded them, sometimes winning is not just about yourself. It is about helping those around you. That is true strength. One day they found a small cadet struggling to repair a hoverboard. The other students ignored him, laughing at his mistakes. Rin and Vec approached him quietly. "Here, try this," Rin said, showing him a way to fix the control chip. The cadet's eyes widened. "Thank you. I didn't know how to do this," Vec smiled. "It's easier when you have someone to guide you." Ben watched from the shadows, pleased. "Helping others will teach you more than any lesson the instructors give," he said softly. As the days passed, the twins' skills grew beyond expectations. They could navigate tight spaces, communicate silently, repair broken systems quickly, and remain calm under pressure. They began to believe in themselves, and that belief was reflected in their flying. One evening, after a long practice session, they sat outside the hangar. The academy lights glowed softly, and the stars sparkled above. "Do you think the others will notice us?" Vec asked quietly. Rin shook his head. "Maybe not yet. But it doesn't matter. We are getting better. We are ready to show what we can do." Ben walked up with a small smile. "Remember, the trials will be full of surprises. You will face challenges you cannot predict. But what you have learned here, creativity, calmness, teamwork, and patience, those are the tools that will help you succeed." Vec looked at him. "Do you really think we can win?" Ben's eyes twinkled. "Winning is not only about being first. It is about showing your strength in ways others cannot. If you trust yourselves, you will surprise everyone." That night, Rin and Vec lay awake in their small dormitory, reviewing the lessons of the day. They remembered Ben's words about using their size, thinking differently, and helping others. They practiced their silent signals and memorized the new flight patterns they had created. Slowly, their nervousness turned into excitement. They imagined the trials, the obstacles, the competitors, and their patched ship flying with perfect coordination. They imagined surprising the judges and other cadets with their creativity and teamwork. For the first time, the twins did not feel small or weak. They felt capable and ready. The next morning, the hangar was filled with the sound of engines and chatter. Other cadets were preparing their ships and reviewing strategies. Rin and Vec rolled their small ship out, checking each system carefully. It was not the largest or fastest, but it was balanced, precise, and perfectly suited for their style. Ben was there again, sweeping near the launch platform. "Remember," he said, "trust yourselves. Use your strengths. Stay calm and help each other. That is how you win." Rin and Vec nodded, their hands gripping the controls. They knew the trials would be difficult. The other cadets were fast, experienced, and confident. Many would laugh at their small ship in quiet style, but they also knew they had something the others did not: preparation, creativity, and the guidance of someone who believed in them. As the countdown for the first simulation began, the twins exchanged a determined glance. They were ready to face the unknown. They were ready to show that size, inexperience, and silence were not disadvantages when paired with courage, intelligence, and teamwork. And somewhere at the edge of the hangar, Ben smiled quietly. He knew the twins were no longer the small, awkward cadets everyone laughed at. They were ready to take the first step toward proving that sometimes thinking differently was the greatest strength of all. The galactic trials were about to begin, and the twins were ready to face the challenges with confidence, creativity, and courage. The morning of the galactic trials was filled with bright light and excitement. The great hangar of Star Academy buzzed with energy as cadets prepared their ships and reviewed their strategies. The air was thick with the sound of engines warming up and tools clinking on metal. Holographic banners floated above the launch area, each showing the names of the teams that would compete. Rin and Vec stood quietly near their small ship, the Hope Runner. It was not fancy or new, but it was ready. They had checked every system, tightened every bolt, and polished the dull metal until it shined. The patches on the hull told stories of hard work and long nights of practice. Around them, the other cadets moved with confidence. Their ships gleamed under the bright lights, fitted with the latest technology. Some teams boasted about their speed, others about their powerful engines. A few cadets passed by Rin and Vec, whispering and chuckling. "Look at that tiny ship," one said. "It looks like it will fall apart before takeoff." Another laughed. "Maybe they're here to clean the hangar, not to race." Rin heard the words but kept his eyes forward. He had learned to ignore the laughter. Vec glanced at his brother and smiled faintly. "Let them laugh," he said softly. "We'll see who's smiling at the end." At the far end of the hangar stood Commander Hollow, the head instructor, with several judges beside him. When the noise settled, Hollow's voice filled the air. "Cadets of the Star Academy," he said, "today marks the beginning of the galactic trials. These challenges will test not just your strength or speed, but your ability to think, to adapt, and to work together. Remember, a true pilot does not win by force but by wisdom and courage. May the best team rise to the top." A cheer erupted from the crowd. The first trial was about to begin. Ben stood at the edge of the hangar, broom in hand. He wasn't allowed inside the control room, but he had found a spot near a maintenance screen where he could watch. When Rin and Vec saw him from across the floor, he raised a hand and gave a quiet nod. They both nodded back. It was enough to remind them that they were not alone. The first challenge was called the Maze of Shadows. It was a navigation test inside a massive simulation dome. Each team had to guide their ship through a field of moving asteroids and energy storms to reach a floating beacon at the center. The maze would shift constantly, making it impossible to rely on pre-planned routes. Rin and Vec entered their ship and powered up the controls. The engines hummed softly, steady and balanced. The screens around them flickered as the simulation began. Suddenly, they were surrounded by a field of floating rocks, glowing energy walls, and streams of cosmic dust. "Ready?" Rin asked. Vec nodded. "Ready?" a voice echoed through the speakers. "Trial 1 begins now." The ships shot forward into the maze. Large vessels raced ahead, their engines roaring. The twins moved slower, letting the others rush in first. Rin studied the movement of the asteroids. They were not random. There was a rhythm, a pattern. "Left, now right," Rin said calmly. Vec adjusted the controls. The ship glided smoothly between two large rocks, missing them by inches. The twins used their size and agility to weave through narrow gaps that the bigger ships could not pass. The crowd watching on the large screens gasped as the small ship danced through obstacles like a leaf in the wind. In the observation room, Commander Hollow leaned forward. "Interesting," he said quietly. "They're not relying on speed. They're reading the pattern." Meanwhile, other ships struggled. One large team hit an energy wall and had to restart. Another got trapped between two moving rocks. The twins continued, calm and steady, using the silent signals they had practiced with Ben. A flash of light meant turn, a short pulse meant slow down. They hardly spoke, moving as if they shared the same thoughts. As they neared the center of the maze, a sudden energy surge shook the field. The asteroids began spinning faster, and the walls shifted positions. Many ships turned back, unable to adapt. Rin focused on the light patterns in the energy waves. He noticed a brief moment of calm between each surge. "Now," he said, timing their move perfectly. Vec pushed the ship forward, and they slipped through the last wall just as it closed behind them. The beacon shined ahead, bright and steady. They reached it seconds before the timer ended. When the simulation ended, the screen showed their rank. The twins had finished in the top 10. The hangar filled with noise as the other cadets landed. Some stared at the twins in surprise. Others ignored them, unwilling to believe what they had just seen. Ben, watching from his maintenance screen, smiled proudly. "That's the spirit," he whispered. The second challenge was announced soon after. It was called Rescue in the Storm. This test simulated a disaster scenario on a damaged space station. Each team had to locate and retrieve an energy core while navigating dangerous wind tunnels and malfunctioning systems. Points would be given not only for speed but also for how many simulated crew members they helped along the way. Most cadets planned to grab the energy core and leave quickly to save time. Rin and Vec thought differently. They remembered Ben's words. Helping others is part of real strength. When the signal started, their ship entered the simulation zone. Sparks flew across the holographic walls as wind currents tossed debris around. Rin guided the ship carefully, avoiding falling beams. Then they saw another team struggling to control their vessel, trapped behind a collapsed section. "They're stuck," Vec said. "We can help," Rin replied. They maneuvered their small ship closer, using precision thrusters to steady it. Vec extended a magnetic arm to pull the damaged ship free. It took time, and they lost a few points for speed, but they saved the other team from being disqualified. As they moved deeper into the simulation, they found the energy core chamber. Two larger ships were already fighting the storm to reach it. Rin noticed that both were pushing against the wind directly, wasting energy. He smiled slightly. "We'll use the current," he said. He angled the ship to catch the wind, letting it push them forward instead of resisting it. The Hope Runner glided effortlessly through the turbulence, reaching the core with smooth precision. They secured it and turned back, using the same current to exit the station safely. When the round ended, the score surprised everyone. The twins placed second overall because of their teamwork and rescue points. The crowd in the observation deck cheered, though many could hardly believe it. Commander Hollow exchanged a glance with the other judges. "Those two are something special," he said. By the time the third challenge began, whispers about the Fenar twins spread through the academy. The small team everyone had laughed at was now proving to be one of the most creative and composed. The third test was the Field of Codes, a puzzle challenge combining flight navigation with problem solving. Teams had to decode energy locks while keeping their ships balanced in midair. Many cadets struggled to multitask, their ships shaking wildly as they tried to solve the codes. Rin and Vec, however, had practiced this type of focus with Ben. They worked silently, one stabilizing the ship while the other analyzed patterns. Each time a code flashed on the screen, Vec spotted the pattern faster and faster. Their calm movements kept the ship steady even when strong energy bursts shook the field. When they completed the final lock, their score appeared among the top 5 teams. A few cadets who had once laughed now watched them in quiet admiration. As the day ended, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light over the academy. The twins landed their ship in the hangar, tired but happy. They looked around, expecting to see Ben. For a moment, they couldn't find him. Then they spotted him near the maintenance door, leaning on his broom with a proud smile. "You did well," he said. Rin nodded, his eyes shining. "We used what you taught us." Thinking differently really worked. Ben chuckled softly. "You did all the work. I only gave you a few tools," Vec smiled. "Still, without you, we would have given up." Ben looked thoughtful. "Sometimes all someone needs is a little faith. You two already had everything it takes to win. You just needed to see it." The twins thanked him and promised to keep trying their best. That night, as they rested in their dorm, the academy buzzed with rumors. Everyone was talking about the Fenar twins. Some said they were lucky, others said they were geniuses. But for Rin and Vec, it didn't matter what anyone thought. They were proud of what they had done. The next day would bring the final challenge, one that no one could predict. The trials had tested their skills, but the last round would test something deeper. Ben knew it too. As he cleaned the empty hangar under the soft glow of starlight, he whispered to himself, "Tomorrow they'll face their greatest test. But I know they're ready." He looked out at the stars, the same stars that had inspired countless explorers before. Somewhere up there, dreams were waiting. And soon, 2 small twins and a humble janitor would show the galaxy that courage and kindness could shine brighter than any star. The day of the final round of the galactic trials dawned with golden light reflecting off the silver towers of Star Academy. Cadets filled the hangar, buzzing with energy, excitement, and a little nervousness. Everyone had been talking about the Fenar twins, Rin and Vec. Some thought their earlier success had been luck. Others whispered that they had hidden talent. No one knew for sure, and all eyes were now on the small patch ship, the Hope Runner, as it sat quietly on the launch platform. Rin and Vec stood beside their ship, checking the controls one last time. Their hands moved quickly but carefully, adjusting sensors, balancing the engines, and reviewing the silent signals they had perfected with Ben. Their hearts beat fast, not from fear, but anticipation. They had come far, and this was the moment to show what they had learned. Ben watched from the edge of the hangar, broom resting on his shoulder. He did not enter the control room. The rules did not allow it, but he had taught them everything they needed to succeed, and he believed in them completely. He gave a small nod, a silent message that he trusted them. Commander Hollow's voice filled the hangar. Cadets, welcome to the final round of the galactic trials. Today's test will combine everything you have learned: teamwork, problem-solving, creativity, and courage. You will face unexpected challenges, and only those who can adapt will succeed. Begin when ready. The twins climbed into the cockpit of their ship. Their small size allowed them to move quickly and fit perfectly inside. They could feel the hum of the engines, balanced and steady. Around them, larger ships lifted off and raced into the simulation zone. Many were fast, polished, and confident. The twins ignored the chatter and laughter from other cadets. They had a plan, a rhythm, and trust in each other. The simulation began with a sudden emergency alert. A massive holographic asteroid field appeared, stretching across the sky. Beyond it was a floating platform holding the final objective, a glowing energy crystal that had to be retrieved and returned to the launch area. The asteroids moved unpredictably, spinning and shifting with increasing speed. Some ships zoomed forward, trying to race past the obstacles. Others hesitated, carefully calculating every move. Rin studied the pattern. The gaps aren't random, he said. They rotate like a clock. If we move with the rhythm, we can slip through without wasting energy. Vec nodded. Ready? Always, Rin replied. Using their knowledge from Ben's lessons, the twins maneuvered the Hope Runner through the asteroid field. Their small ship darted and glided, slipping through spaces that larger ships could not pass. The crowd watched the holographic screens in amazement as the twins seemed to dance with the obstacles. Suddenly, a massive asteroid shifted unexpectedly, blocking the twins' path. Two larger ships crashed into it, unable to stop in time. The twins, however, had learned to remain calm. Rin adjusted their speed and angle, while Vec used the silent signal to indicate a sharp turn. The Hope Runner twisted between the asteroid and a spinning energy wall, emerging safely on the other side. The next challenge appeared within the simulation. An entire section of the field was collapsing. Energy beams flashed and debris floated in chaotic patterns. Most cadets panicked, trying to find a safe route. The twins stopped for a moment and analyzed the field. Use the currents, Rin said quietly. We can glide through instead of fighting it. Vec adjusted the ship's angle, letting the natural energy flow push them forward. They moved swiftly and smoothly, avoiding debris and hazards. Their calmness and teamwork allowed them to advance faster than many larger teams struggling with speed and force. Halfway through the trial, they spotted a smaller ship trapped under a falling beam. The team inside panicked, unable to maneuver. Vec glanced at Rin. We should help them, he said. Rin nodded. It will cost time, but it's the right thing to do. The twins carefully guided their ship next to the trapped vessel. Using a magnetic stabilizer, they lifted the beam just enough to allow the smaller ship to escape. They lost a few points for speed, but the judges rewarded teamwork, problem-solving, and bravery. Other cadets looked on in surprise, some even admiring the small Fenard twins' choice. As they approached the final objective, the energy crystal floated high above a narrow platform. The path was surrounded by spinning obstacles and shifting energy walls. Larger ships struggled to land, bouncing off the platform or overshooting their mark. Rin whispered, We've trained for this. Trust the plan. Vec adjusted the silent signals and they moved in perfect synchronization. Rin controlled the direction while Vec monitored the obstacles. The Hope Runner glided gracefully to the platform, landing perfectly. They secured the crystal and prepared to return. On the way back, another challenge appeared. The simulation introduced random energy surges, forcing ships to adapt instantly or lose control. Many cadets panicked, their ships spinning out of control. The twins, however, remembered Ben's lessons. They stayed calm, adjusted the controls gently, and navigated through the surges with smooth precision. Finally, they reached the exit point. Their small ship touched down gently on the launch pad. A soft chime signaled completion. They had finished not only with high speed but also with maximum points for teamwork, problem-solving, and creativity. The hangar erupted with applause and whispers. Cadets who had once laughed at the twins now stared in awe. Many of the instructors smiled, impressed by the unexpected display of skill and composure. Commander Hollow stepped forward, raising his hand to silence the crowd. "Cadets," he said, "today we witness something extraordinary. The Fenner twins have shown that success is not measured by size, strength, or speed alone. It is measured by courage, teamwork, creativity, and the ability to adapt to challenges. They have proven themselves worthy of representing the Star Academy." Rin and Vec stepped out of their ship, breathing heavily but smiling. They scanned the crowd, looking for Ben. He was there near the maintenance area, leaning on his broom with pride in his eyes. They ran toward him and hugged him tightly. "Thank you," Rin said. "We couldn't have done it without you." Ben smiled softly. "You did all the work. I only showed you the way," Vec laughed. "The way was enough. We learned how to believe in ourselves." Commander Hollow approached, holding a medal. "Rin and Vec, on behalf of the Star Academy and the United Systems Council, we honor you as the champions of the galactic trials. May your courage and creativity inspire every cadet who comes after you." The twins accepted the medal, their hearts full of joy and pride. They had not only won the trials, but had done so by being true to themselves and using the lessons Ben had taught them. Later, as the crowd dispersed and the other cadets congratulated them, Rin and Vec found a quiet corner of the hangar. They looked at each other, their small hands holding the medal tightly. "We did it," Vec said softly. "Yes," Rin replied. "And we proved something important. That even if others laugh or doubt you, you can succeed if you believe in yourself and help others along the way." Ben approached quietly. "Remember this feeling," he said. "It is the result of patience, creativity, and courage. These are the skills that will guide you far beyond the academy." The twins nodded. They had learned more than just flight maneuvers or engineering tricks. They had learned that real strength comes from heart, mind, and teamwork. They had learned that kindness and courage could shine brighter than any engine or weapon. As the sun set over the academy, casting golden light across the hangar, the twins placed the medal on their small ship. They looked out at the stars, dreaming of future adventures. They knew the galaxy was vast, full of challenges and mysteries, but they also knew that together they could face anything. The crowd slowly emptied, leaving the hangar quiet except for the hum of engines and the soft echo of footsteps. Ben leaned on his broom one last time before leaving, a smile on his face. He had seen two small cadets, laughed at and overlooked by many, grow into champions of the academy. Rin and Vec sat in the cockpit of the Hope Runner, looking at the stars above. Their journey had only begun, but they had learned the greatest lesson of all, that courage, creativity, teamwork, and belief in oneself could turn the smallest and quietest among us into heroes. The stars sparkled brightly over Norris, as if celebrating their victory, and in that moment, the Fenner twins knew that nothing could stop them from reaching for the impossible.